They believed they could trap him with their allegations. Instead, he tore off his microphone and strode away. This is what transpired. The studio lights blazed intensely, reflecting off the polished black floor. Devices lingered in stillness, ready to seize each subtle nuance of emotion. Facing one another, divided merely by a glass table, Elon Musk and Greg Talbot appeared relaxed and comfortable. Yet, the atmosphere surrounding them held a weight of unexpressed emotions. Greg, an experienced television host recognized for his incisive inquiries and progressive viewpoint, had navigated this routine countless times in the past. His gray suit was sharp, his hands arranged meticulously on the desk, and his smile was just broad enough to imply friendliness without genuine feeling. Elon, on the other hand, reclined a bit in his chair, one ankle propped on his knee, his expression enigmatic. He had conducted interviews before countless times, yet this one carried a unique weight. His instincts hinted that Greg had motives beyond merely inquiring about Tesla, SpaceX, or his most recent acquisition. A deeper tension simmered just below the surface of the courteous exchanges. The theme music of the show gradually diminished, giving way to the calm and measured tones of an unseen announcer. This evening, the renowned billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk engages in a unique dialogue with Greg Talbot. Every subject is fair game. Prepare yourself for an unforgettable conversation ahead. The crimson recording light flickered into existence. Greg straightened his tie and faced the camera with purpose. Greetings once again to the Talbot Report. This evening, we welcome a guest who truly requires no introduction. He has transformed the automotive landscape, propelled rockets beyond our atmosphere, and is now embroiled in a multitude of controversies that seem endless. Elon Musk, we appreciate your presence. Elon offered a subtle nod. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. His voice remained steady, his posture at ease, yet his eyes were keen, scrutinizing Greg as if he were dissecting a complex problem, searching for the discrepancies that failed to align. Greg acted swiftly. Let's begin with a touch of levity, a practiced laugh. X, or as many still call it, Twitter. Many individuals feel that the platform has undergone significant transformation during your tenure. Opinions vary widely on this matter, with some viewing it positively while others disagree. Elon wore a subtle smirk. It varies based on the perspective of the individual you consult. Those who cherish the principle of free expression often assert that it has seen enhancements. Those who favored censorship will tell you it's even more detrimental. Greg arched an eyebrow. Censorship, what a powerful term. That's the correct term, Elon responded. Greg allowed the silence to linger before adjusting himself in his chair. Certainly, one must acknowledge that the concept of free speech does not equate to permitting the unrestrained proliferation of hate. Elon let out a breath through his nostrils, anticipating the direction this was headed. What you refer to as hate speech, another might consider a passionate viewpoint. The question is, who has the authority to make that decision? A group of unappointed individuals verifying information? Greg's smile was present, yet it failed to illuminate his eyes. So, you have no second thoughts about your approach? Not really, Elon remarked with a casual air. Errors, absolutely. However, no regret. Twitter was on its last legs when I acquired it. Now individuals truly engage with it. Greg gave a slow nod. Fascinating, yet let's proceed. The dialogue unfolded seamlessly, exploring Tesla's recent advancements, Neuralink's aspirations, and Musk's perspective on the regulation of artificial intelligence. Yet there was a change in the quality of Greg's tone. The inquiries seemed deliberate. It wasn't uncommon for an interview of this nature. Yet there was a subtle tension emerging, an undercurrent just out of sight. A subtle shift occurred in Greg's demeanor, slight and nearly undetectable, yet significant enough for Musk to observe. The host inclined his body forward, intertwining his fingers. His subsequent words held a distinct significance. You've created a remarkable legacy, Elon. Absolutely certain of that. However, with significant influence comes intense examination. Elon blinked, showing no sign of enthusiasm. That's typically the way it goes. Greg inclined his head. Let's tackle some of that criticism, shall we? Yet, Musk sensed that this was the moment when the true interview would commence. Greg kept his refined grin, yet there was a newfound intensity in his gaze. The cordial exchanges had come to an end. He jotted down a few notes on his tablet before raising his gaze. Elon, you've consistently been known for challenging limits. People appreciate that, yet some believe you may be pushing them a bit too much. Elon remained unfazed. Advancement demands a willingness to embrace uncertainty. Greg inclined his head, suggesting his concurrence. Absolutely. However, let's discuss responsibility. He faced the camera to create an impact. Your approach to leadership has been characterized as exceptional yet impulsive. Workers at Tesla and SpaceX have expressed concerns regarding unattainable deadlines, grueling work hours, and an atmosphere of intimidation. He shifted his focus back to Musk. Is there deception at play? Elon exhaled softly. I anticipate exceptional results. This is not a coffee shop. We're crafting rockets and developing AI, not serving fast food. I never compel anyone to work alongside me. They opt to because they have faith in our mission. Greg's eyebrows arched ever so slightly. That's a valid observation. What about the accounts of individuals losing their jobs due to trivial disputes? Professionals who claim they challenged your choices and were dismissed the very next day. Elon nonchalantly shrugged. If an individual does not resonate with the mission, their presence is unwarranted. Tenure does not guarantee a position. Merit and performance are what truly matter. Greg pressed his lips together, contemplating his next action. He leaned in closer. Okay, let's discuss your perspective on AI. Elon's demeanor remained largely unchanged, yet the change in subject was clearly observed. You have consistently cautioned against the perils associated with artificial intelligence. You've referred to it as a profound existential danger. And yet you are currently advancing AI with XAI, Neuralink, and the self-driving technology from Tesla. Doesn't that seem a little contradictory? Elon offered a faint smile. When faced with the threat of a flood, is it enough to simply wish for clear skies? Or do you begin constructing more effective barriers? Greg allowed the analogy to resonate before continuing. Do you really think that managing AI is the sole method to safeguard humanity from its potential risks? If it falls into the hands of the wrong individuals, we could face serious consequences. Greg's lips curled ever so slightly, hinting at the anticipation he had felt for that response. Those who shouldn't be involved? Who are those individuals? Elon's eyes held a firm intensity. Authorities that emphasize regulation rather than creativity. Technology firms prioritizing profit over ethical considerations. Media outlets that twist stories rather than provide clear information to the public. Greg let out a soft laugh, shaking his head in amusement. So, it seems like everyone except for you? Elon's demeanor remained unchanged, yet his fingers tapped softly on the armrest. Greg's smile widened. That's precisely what captivates others about you. You portray yourself as a maverick, a nonconformist intellect determined to rescue the world from malevolent forces. Yet, concurrently, you hold one of the most influential positions in the world. Some might argue that this positions you as the very entity you profess to oppose. Elon let out a breath through his nostrils. Authority isn't the issue. It depends on the one who holds it and the intention behind its use. Greg nodded, seemingly acknowledging the reply. But then his smile disappeared. The subsequent question emerged with a measured pace, each word carefully chosen. Let's discuss your relationships. A brief glimmer of emotion crossed Musk's face. Greg pressed on. Your presence has been noted at exclusive gatherings alongside influential figures, high-profile billionaires, and officials from various nations. Some of them are not particularly recognized for their records on human rights, and yet you discuss the importance of open dialogue and clarity. He inclined his head. What makes you credible in ensuring that you're not operating in dual interests? Elon inclined his body slightly forward. His voice held a steady calm, yet there was an underlying sharpness. Encountering someone doesn't imply that you share their views. I'm open to conversations with anyone if it means moving forward. Greg continued forward. Absolutely, Yet it's important to recognize that there's a distinction between mere conversation and true collaboration. Evidence has emerged connecting you to confidential agreements with specific governments. Elon's expression was unchanging, yet an unseen tension filled the atmosphere. Greg allowed the silence to linger for a moment longer than necessary before presenting the next line. Some claim you're not the maverick you portray yourself as. You're merely a billionaire looking out for your own interests. Elon drew in a breath through his nostrils, his grip on the armrest growing firmer. However, Greg still had more to say. Though Elon's face remained impassive, the slight shifts in his demeanor revealed his true feelings. The subtle tightening of his jaw, the fingers gripping a little more firmly against the armrest. He had faced challenging interviews in the past, yet this one felt distinct. Greg was pushing him to his limits. He was laying a cunning snare. Greg noticed it as well. He leaned in just a bit, his voice lowering, compelling the room into a more pronounced silence. Elon, you've established a name for yourself through openness, candid expression, and embodying, he gestured with air quotes, the final genuine billionaire. What if I revealed that a portion of your honesty has been meticulously crafted? Elon's brow furrowed slightly. It seems you have a compelling argument to present. Go ahead and create it. Greg savored each moment. He tapped on his tablet, feigning engagement with a source, yet his gaze remained fixed on Elon. Of late, there have been murmurs, papers emerging, individuals conversing discreetly. It is alleged that although you openly criticize government overreach, you have secretly negotiated arrangements that provide your companies with preferential treatment, advantageous contracts, tax incentives, and access to technologies that are beyond the reach of most businesses. He allowed the accusation to settle within him. Elon breathed out deliberately and with precision. Do you really believe that Tesla, SpaceX, and my other ventures thrived without facing any competition? Without examination? Every step forward has required a struggle. If there were any behind-the-scenes arrangements, I must have overlooked the notification. Greg nodded, his expression suggesting he had anticipated that reply. Very well, let's get into the details. Let's discuss China. The atmosphere in the studio grew dense. Greg maintained his tone with precision. Tesla stands out as the sole foreign-owned automaker permitted to operate in China independently, without the need for a domestic partner. That's more than mere chance. That's a special allowance granted by the Chinese government just for you. Tesla's gigafactory in Shanghai has facilitated China's progress in its electric vehicle sector, which is now in direct competition with American automotive manufacturers. That certainly resembles a deal quite closely. Elon's gaze deepened, his mouth settling into a resolute line. Cars are manufactured in that location. That's all there is to it. No preferential treatment, no concealed arrangements. Any significant corporation aiming to enter the Chinese market must establish manufacturing operations within the country. What makes Tesla stand out? Greg maintained his gaze unwaveringly. Unlike the others, you retained full ownership of your company. Recent reports indicate that the Chinese companies, which received support from Tesla, are now undermining American automakers through competitive pricing and supply chain strategies. Some even propose that you contributed to hastening China's supremacy in electric vehicles to the detriment of America. Elon exhaled softly, caught in a moment that danced between humor and annoyance. Are you implying that I engaged in treasonous acts? Greg hesitated before responding. The pause, that fleeting silence, spoke volumes. Elon leaned in closer, his voice taking on a more intense tone. I create and construct various projects. That's my craft. As politicians bicker over trade wars, I'm focused on finding solutions. If individuals choose to interpret that in a negative light, that's their prerogative. Greg paused for a moment before replying. Individuals are simply seeking to understand the foundation of your allegiance. Elon let out a dismissive laugh, subtly shaking his head. What about my loyalty? My allegiance lies with the future of humanity, rather than with any one government, political party, or the ever-changing media narrative. Greg exhaled slowly, lost in thought. That's reasonable, but let's explore further. He cast a quick look at his tablet. Serious discussions have emerged, with significant allegations indicating that specific governments, such as China and the US, may have utilized you for purposes beyond just automobiles. Your provision of access to Starlink technology appears to favor one side over the other. Your satellites do more than connect the world. They dictate which parts remain linked. The atmosphere was thick with an oppressive stillness. Elon's demeanor shifted to one of steely resolve. I refuse to engage with conspiracy theories. Greg inclined his head. Can it still be considered a conspiracy when there is proof? Elon emitted a faint, mirthless chuckle. If you truly had concrete proof, you wouldn't refer to it as discussions and recommendations. You would be demonstrating it. Greg offered a subtle smirk, aware that Musk's patience was wearing thin. Are you suggesting that everything is out in the open? Elon's tone had taken on a more cutting edge. This dialogue has transitioned from the realm of journalism to that of theater. Greg maintained his composure effortlessly. Perhaps, yet when the narrative is captivating enough, individuals tend to accept it. Elon reclined, releasing a breath through his nostrils. His expression transformed from amusement to an entirely different sentiment. A sentiment that leans towards irritation. Yet, Greg's determination to push forward remained unyielding. Greg allowed the tension to linger, enveloping the scene like a creeping mist. He had Musk precisely in the position he desired. Trapped, frustrated, compelled to justify himself against claims that lacked definitive responses. Yet he had more to say still unfinished. He straightened his tie, a subtle smirk playing at the corner of his lips. Let's delve into a matter of greater significance. Elon remained unmoved, yet there was an unmistakable quality in his silence. Greg tapped his tablet once more. Reports from verified sources indicate that Starlink has been utilized in military operations, extending beyond humanitarian aid or disaster relief to include warfare. Access to your technology has been granted or denied based on political interests. Elon's jaw clenched, his fingers drumming lightly on the glass table. I have no influence over the usage of Starlink. It's a device akin to the internet, much like Jeeps. Individuals utilize it according to their own perspectives. That decision isn't mine to make. Greg remained utterly still. Yet you have indeed made calls, haven't you? There have been occasions when Starlink was disabled in conflict areas, and it coincidentally favored one side over the other. Elon took a deep breath, his composure clearly wearing thin. If I allow it to be utilized in unrestricted warfare, I would face accusations of exacerbating global conflict. When I manage access, I face accusations of favoritism. So what is the answer? Greg remained silent. Instead, he allowed the silence to linger. He had no desire for a response. He sought a response. The authority in Elon's voice started to waver, just a bit. You're presenting this as if it's part of a vast scheme, but the reality is straightforward. We offer internet services and that's all. Greg reclined, folding his arms across his chest. Why do multiple defense officials, both domestically and internationally, assert that you personally intervened in specific cases? So, you've taken on the role of a gatekeeper for worldwide communications? Elon emitted a brief chuckle, yet it lacked humor. It was a sound of incredulity. Allow me to clarify this. So, you're suggesting that I have the power to influence governments now? Greg maintained a calm demeanor. Your influence is evident, and there is a curiosity about its boundaries. Elon's patience had finally reached its limit. This is utterly absurd. His voice had taken on a sharper quality, each word delivered with a precise, clipped edge. You invite me here, claiming we'll have an open dialogue. Yet all you do is hurl baseless accusations, hoping one will land. Greg raised his hands. I'm merely inquiring. Elon chuckled softly, shaking his head in amusement.